Hey guys, Matt from Soundrolling.com. One of you lovely chap or chapettes asked about routing for outputs and how you get things like just the boom to the boom operator, for instance. But I'll kind of show you just the 688 options and how I basically use the auxiliary tracks 1 through 6. And that's how I also do some of my, I did like a live Facebook video where I had to give a lot of different feeds for groups of a choir and all that kind of stuff. So let's dive into it. So firstly, we have lots of combinations of outputs. We have the big 10-pin ones, which give you kind of a stereo feed out of L and R, and also give you a return feed, and it can also even send time code, depending on the type of cable you have. These are the main ones that I'm going to be talking about, the X1, X2, X3, X4. And of course, you have the standard XLR 3 pins for just the left and the right channel as well. So let's look at the menu, though. And I haven't actually, I need to do more experience with AES because I haven't done any AES outputs yet. But essentially in the routing there, in case you missed it, it's just outputs, and then we go into X1 to X6 routing, and then I can route anything I want, however I want. There's also channel shortcuts for each individual one or whatever's open, so if I press it across, then I get to the menu of this one, and you can see that I can either give X1. So if I decide that X1, for instance, feeds my boom operator, then if it's just X1 on itself as opposed to X1 pre, X1 on its own means with the fader. So if the fader's down, then obviously my boom op isn't going to hear anything, and if it's up, then it will. But obviously, if I'm mixing lots of stuff together, that can get very confusing for them, because maybe I go a bit more on radios. And so if they just want a feed of that on its own, then you give it X1 pre. And then that's giving you just the ISO track of whatever you've set the gain to, and then forgetting about this. You can do exactly the same, but in various different combinations for the director's mix. You can do things like... well, all sorts of things really. It depends what they want to hear. If they want to just hear a mix, your mix, then you can just send it to the left channel, for instance. If you were doing all radios sent to the camera on the right and then the boom on the left, then obviously you can configure that as well, and then send that to the camera. So there's plenty of different options. But yeah, generally that's how I do it. I kind of do a pre-fade of whatever the boom up wants to hear, or if they just want to hear a mix in one ear and then something else in the other, then I could use 2 outputs, and with this X1 to X6 routing, I could change it to any number of things. For instance, X5 and X6 are actually a stereo, so I could output those, and with kind of two receivers, kind of a dual. It'd have to be probably a Zaxcom kind of jobby, but then I could get a stereo signal straight through. So that's it for outputs, and as for what I'm actually using, I'm using Electrosonic's IFB 4 transmitter, although I could just use a normal transmitter, to be honest. I still need to kind of change that. And then I've just got one single mono input in via this little TA3, which obviously goes into my X pins. And then if I have anyone else who needs a separate mix, then I can always just use a G3 or any kind of wireless mic, really. So yeah, that's me just sharing about kind of outputs. And yeah, depending on what mixer you have and routing capabilities, there's lots you can do. But generally, pre-fade, just so they're constantly hearing their own mic. And when I was in Amsterdam, we had 2 booms, for instance. So I was always making sure that he had the right boom pole. And the right boom going to the right wire, and then other like script supervisor just having mix or just radio sometimes if they wanted that. So yeah, it all completely depends, but there's lots of customization with the Sound Devices series, which is great. So if you want to see more videos, there's some around the screen, and you can also subscribe for daily content, and I will see you tomorrow.